Right on, writers, and welcome first-time viewers to the Books by Adrian authored platform. This is Typewriters Podcast, a sort of after show to Livestream Sunday. This is being recorded immediately after wrapping up Livestream Sunday on Sunday, the 20th of February, with our guest, Sara R. Stewart. We're going to have her here in just a moment to dive right back into stuff. First, like, comment, subscribe. Leave a comment down below letting us know your favorite sex scene in a novel or any story. And if your comment is awesome, it might get chosen for comment of the week on next Sunday's show. So look for that next Sunday. Alrighty, we're going to bring our guest right back out here. Everybody, welcome back, Miss Sara Stewart. Sara!
Hi.
Hey, welcome back. There we go. How did it go for you on Livestream Sunday? I thought it went rather well.
It was fun. It went fast, but I think that was my nerves.
No, it's
Yes.
a quick hour. I do that on purpose. I used to do like a 2-hour show, and I did that to give people time to like show up, and you would have people showing up at the tail end and all throughout. But I'm like, no, it's going to be like an event. Like you have to be there. It's an hour long. If you didn't make it, you missed it, and you're watching it on a replay like a dope. You got to be there live. That's the whole point, is get them there live.
You're funny. I think I laughed a ton.
Did you?
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope people laugh. Otherwise, I'm just some idiot talking into a computer. I hope people laugh. Yeah, I had fun. I had the jitters before. I was a little nervous, and I always get nervous before an episode. It wasn't exclusive to this one, but for some reason, I was like really aware of it this time. I was like, man, why am I so nervous? I need to calm down. Everything's fine. I've done this before. It was fun though. We had a good time. We did have some questions that we didn't get to, and that should get our talk rolling if we dive back into those. So I wanted to ask if you are thinking of yourself exclusively as a romance writer, or if you are looking forward to playing in other genre sandboxes. I know you expressed interest in something even darker. but
Still romance, yeah.
But still romance, yeah.
I think of myself. I think I'm still getting used to thinking of myself as an author. I
get that.
Don't take myself very seriously. Not that I don't take what I'm doing seriously and that it's not important to me, but I recognize that writing romance is not a serious thing, or reading romance. It's supposed to be enjoyable and fun. And
writing anything isn't a serious thing. That's the funny part, is that we're all just sitting in a room by ourselves doing this. Like, it's really not that serious.
We're artists that are compelled by these voices in our head, and if they didn't have a place to go, we'd probably be finding another way to let them out. And I am not going to stay in a lane. That's not me. I never do. If I feel like doing something, I do it. That's one of my personality traits. So I tend to try new things, and even if it's embarrassing and I do it not well, I like to try new things. Right now, I'm also writing a young adult, paranormal kind of story with romance undertones.
Nice.
But it's new for me. Also, I said I wanted to do that nonfiction story about my life. And then my oldest daughter and I are talking about at some point writing a book together.
Nice.
I adopted her from foster care. And so we want to write about our experiences with that journey.
Oh man, that's wonderful.
And I think it would be going into adopting and being a foster parent myself. I read a lot and I looked at a lot of stuff and still was completely unprepared. I think no parent is ever prepared for what parenting is for real.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, I think she has a lot to say too, and she's an amazing storyteller herself.
That would be wonderful. A mother-daughter together tackling on this particular subject and journey. I'm into that. That sounds awesome.
Me too, but I think it's going to be a while. I don't think she's quite ready to
She's still
to
mulling it. She's
yeah.
still like making her peace with the fact that she needs to do this.
I think she's still figuring out who
artist,
she
right?
is.
Yeah.
She's 18. She's so young. She's got a lot of time before she really knows herself. Yeah. But I if I get inspired, I just kind of jump in. I've always been that way. I dabble in lots of things. There are very few things that I dabble to a finish in. So, for example, I like to knit, but only in the winter. And I finished a sweater about once every 4 years. So, and that's because I've been working on it slowly.
Yeah, only in the winter.
Only in the winter.
It's a project you pick up only in the winter. That's funny. You know, with the whole like writing different genres and stuff, it's first of all, it's nice to hear that you're also writing young adult paranormal. Like that sounds fun. I have a hard time telling people that I write sci-fi or I write fantasy because all of my stuff is genre bendy. You know, like it's got everything in it. This, you know, novel that I'm debuting with this year is a sci-fi fantasy world, but the plot is a murder mystery. And it's an ensemble plot. You got a couple different kinds of characters going on their own journeys, and so it's hard for me to be like, yeah, it's because it's not really a sci-fi story. It's a sci-fi world, and it's like I like.
Well, stop trying to put yourself into a box.
Well, sure, that's
do
exactly
your
what
own
I'm
lane.
Saying.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I'm saying. It's because I don't fit in those boxes that I don't like saying those things. I'm like, no, I write everything. I have romance, subplots in my novel. I have a couple of sex scenes in my novel. It's an adult book. It's just
awesome.
It's just all over the place.
I'm gonna have to read. I'm gonna have to read it.
I would love to send you some sample chapters if you're interested. I have like the first act of the book at a point where I like showing people. It's still first draft. It's still terrible. But I'm further along in my own like editing, but this is like the draft that I'm showing everybody for now. And it's like 6 chapters, and it gives you a good idea of where I'm going with it. If you're open to it, I'm happy to send it. There's at least one sex scene in that first act, and I would love your input on it because I haven't had anybody who writes your genre read my stuff yet. So that's an aspect of my novel that I definitely would like your eye on.
But let's talk about that because that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like I'll send you some stuff over in the email, and then you can comment it up. It's gonna be fun. But yeah, it's this thing where like I just love touching on every genre, and that's what I like to read. That's what I like to watch. So that's what I like to write. And there's so many, do's and don'ts, especially for folks' first novels. They tell you don't write, a series for your first novel. Mine's the first in a trilogy. Yours, it was also it looks like six or 7 books it's going to be. And you started with that first book. They say don't write ensemble cast for your first book. I have at least 3 main characters. I have other side characters that have their own chapters too. It's like I'm breaking every rule that they tell you not to do for your first book. Don't write a big giant epic. It's huge. Like my book is way too big.
Well, this is my opinion.
Hit it.
People who stay in their lane and do what they're told rarely make history, and they rarely make a big splash. Someone might read it and go, "Oh, hey, that was a lot of fun," but and I don't know that anything I write will ever make a splash. But what I do know is I have a big personality, and I think that if you want to read what you're writing, write it. And I write for myself, and most authors do, and then we hope somebody else enjoys it. And the best thing that an author ever gets to experience is someone who read your book, who's really into it and wants to talk to you about it. And I'm still waiting for that to happen.
See, I also am looking forward to that. Everybody, I often ask my guests what their idea of success for their career looks like. And me not having yet put out my first book, still working on it. My idea of success for my first book is when someone who I do not know, who I've never spoken to, who I have no connection to whatsoever, sees my book, buys it, reads it, enjoys it, and writes a review without me asking them to. That to me is success. When someone that has absolutely no tie to me whatsoever, doesn't watch my channel, does like no connection, reads my book and loves it. That's when I'm like, okay, I'm there. I've made it.
I have a few that have, because I'm still relatively new and getting in the stream of readers and romance. It's difficult, especially when you don't fit into what Amazon allows. So
Yeah.
I'm in the Amazon dungeon. They actually have a thing. It's called the Amazon Dungeon,
I
and
know.
it's if your book title or your book cover or the description break the Amazon rules. And for me, my book covers are way too sexy, so
Too hot for
I'm in the
Amazon.
dungeon, which is appropriate for a BDSM author, I suppose.
Actually, yeah. You know what? That's exactly where you belong.
Yes, exactly. They put me right where I belong. That's all right.
That's so funny. We were talking about, doing or playing by the rules, and how there's like different rules for different genres. What's funny is that once the genre is established and all those rules are in place, it's the thing that keeps the everyday authors of that genre going. They just keep pumping out that formula, and that just kind of builds the genre in people's minds. The standouts in each genre are always the ones who step outside of the lane, who do something a little different, who follow their own path, who are undeniably that genre and yet stand aside from all of the rest. So that's what I hope for the two of us. I feel like that's where we're headed. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Is just having our own like standout. Again, that's one of the reasons why I got so excited when you started talking about your character going through therapy and all that kind of stuff in your book, and you doing your due diligence in making sure that was respectful to the reality of those mental health issues. That got me really excited, because I'm like, yes, that's what I'm looking for, some real like substance in these romance novels. I have,
Yeah.
like I said, a romance subplot in my book. I don't see myself writing a straight up romance. Maybe I will, I don't know, but I don't see it yet. But it's just one of those things where it's like I want, like, if I'm gonna read a romance, I want there to be like so many layers to it besides the romance, like it just like any other genre I would be reading. So,
There's a lot. It's like eating chocolates. You get a box of chocolate and you're like, oh, this one's okay. This one's okay. And then there's that one that you're like, oh, I wish they were all like this. That's how I feel like reading most books in a given
good
genre
analogy.
are. And for me, I'm one of those people, when I find something I like, that's just what I do. And so I often reread my favorite books over. Just it's like visiting a friend or going back to a memory and a feeling. It's sentimental.
Yeah.
And also I have a crappy memory, so oftentimes I forget the nuances of a story, and so I get to remember them again by reading.
Yeah, you and I are at here, because
Mhm.
the same is true for me. Often I will have to reread a chapter. I'll read an entire chapter and I'll get to the end and I'll be like, wait a minute, what just happened? I don't even remember already, and I have to go back and reread it. It's been I'm the worst reader. I'm a writer who's the worst reader, but I do the same thing. I reread books that I love. I reread American Gods almost religiously, once a year often. I used to do that with Lord of the Rings. I used to reread it once a year, every year. Movies, TV, I'll rewatch stuff that I love, and it's a funny thing about a person's personality, where I'll go to a new restaurant that I've never been to before, and I'll try something off the menu, and I love it so much that now anytime I come, that's what I
all you
order.
order. Yeah.
But it's like you should explore the rest of the menu, see what else they have that you might also love. It's like, nope, I know what I like. It's like, I'm good. I
So
had it
maybe
once,
there's a
never let me down.
personality type that is called authors because you're talking to someone who has the similar
Yeah,
character traits.
that's what it sounds like. When your analogy about the chocolates, I was like, that's exactly what I. If I go to a place and I'm not crazy about what I ate, I'll try something else. But eventually, I'll find the thing where I'm like, oh, why can't it all be like this? This is what I want. Yeah,
Or if you're like me, you'll go to a restaurant because you like the sensory feeling of being there. You like the
sure.
ambiance and the
Yeah, the
sounds and the
chatter,
smells and the lighting.
plates
For me, lighting
clacking.
is huge. And
Yes.
there are things that you don't mind on the menu, but there isn't anything you love. My
Mm.
husband always teases me about that is I'd rather go to a restaurant that I enjoy the ambiance than necessarily am dying for the food.
Oh man, my wife is similar. Where like she'll go to a place and be so excited about what it looks like and how it feels and all that, and then she'll look at the menu and be like, I don't want anything here. I'm like, this was your idea. Why are we here if you don't like the food?
Yeah,
um,
sometimes it's the experience.
yeah. Sometimes it's the vibe of the place. Like that's
Mhm.
what you're going for, is that energy. So with your books, walk us through any and all marketing strategies. I'm always very curious about folks, how other authors market their books, how they try to get their stuff out there. What do you do? What do you plan on doing differently in the future?
So, there are those people that plan things out and they do their research and they make a strategy and they're really awesome people, but that's not me.
I saw where you were going right away.
I am the I want to do it this way person, so that's how I'm going to do it. I mean, I knew after I started my career in my early 20s that I didn't want to be a starving artist, so I was going to work in corporate America and then retire early and start writing full time. And that's still my plan today, and that's
Nice.
where I'm working towards. Um, I I get it into my head that I want to do something, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, come hell or high water. And oftentimes it gets me into trouble. And, like, for example, not being able to advertise my books on Amazon or
Right.
Facebook. I can advertise on Facebook, but just not using my book covers. I can't
Hmm.
advertise on Amazon. So, I've learned a few things. I love my book covers, but I can tell you book 4, the cover, it still very much looks like the rest of my series, but instead of having a couple on the cover, there's just a woman's face.
Hmm.
And that was done partially because it's a menage book and finding art with 3 characters that look like the characters in my story was not
Yeah.
easy, but also partially because I wanted to be able to get out there and market my book and market my stories. And so I'm learning as I go.
Hmm.
But now I think where I'm focusing is going to local booksellers and romance conventions. And I've also interacted with a group called Voracious Readers. So if you sign
Rings
up
a
with
bell. I think I've heard of them.
yeah, so if readers sign up with Voracious Readers, you can go in and you can look through a ton of free books being given away by the author. Not the pirate sites that give away people's intellectual
Given away by the author.
capital, but it's being given away by the author as an introduction to them and their series. And so I give away free
Reader
books.
magnets.
Exactly. That's
Nice.
exactly what it is. But it's done through a channel that has thousands of people who use it already. And so
Cool.
I get about 80 new readers a month who get a free copy of my book, sometimes more, sometimes less. And uh, and then they're asked to review and they're asked to join your newsletter.
Nice.
So I'm getting some reviews. I'm getting a lot of reads, but some reviews, and only about 1% of readers actually review books.
Yeah, reviews are rare for
Mhm.
sure. But
Mhm.
that's really cool, a place where people can go to sort of browse through authors, so to
Yeah,
speak.
exactly
Just
right.
kind of like read stuff for free, find stuff that you like, and hopefully you're advertising your other books within the pages of that book, your free one. You know what I mean?
And
Especially
if
at
you
the end.
Yeah, and if you want to read free books, there are a lot of ways that authors give away their books for free for people to get introduced to them legitimately.
Mm,
So I strongly encourage you to find them. I can think of, 4 different ways off the top of my head, including a library app called Overdrive, where you can put in your library credentials and check out audiobooks and check out ebooks through either your phone or your tablet. And
nice.
we want people who can't afford to buy books to read us. We just want to do so with our permission.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I love that. That's a great service, a great way to connect to new readers and have authors kind of like a nice little platform where they can showcase their stuff. I like that. That's nice.
Yeah.
Especially, in genres like your own, where it's a little difficult to market, like you were saying. I'm happy about your plans for the next cover. I think that's going to make a big difference for sure. Although I love your covers, I think they're great.
They're pretty sexy. I love them too. I have a great artist. You might not have noticed, but each book cover has a different bridge on it in Portland. And Portland, Oregon is also called Bridgetown because there's like 10, maybe or more bridges.
I had not noticed, but I will. I will next time. I'm gonna look for that. That's cool. I've always wanted to go to Portland. I'm a big fan of it from far away. I live in Florida, but I very much want to visit. It looks beautiful.
Go in the spring.
That's what
or the
everyone
fall.
says. That's what everyone says, spring or fall. That's when I would want to be there anyway. It's the same thing with Florida. It's like, don't come down this summer. It's hot and humid and horrible, and Disney is flooded. Like, no, just go in October. Go to Disney for the Food and Wine Festival, and it'll be cool enough that you can wear a sweater outside. Like, that's when you go to Disney.
Well, Portland is a lot of fun in the summer too. It's very green. I think that
A lot of
people who,
trees.
right, but people who go places in the summer, they want things to be really hot and sunny, and
Not
it's
me.
still Portland.
Yeah. It's still going to be rainy and Portland.
Well, not so much. I mean, there's some rain in the summertime, but mostly a lot of overcast days and not so hot.
I just love all the trees. I see pictures of
Mhm.
Portland. There's trees everywhere, parks everywhere. I'm like, yeah,
It's
that's what I want.
gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. Okay, now when I asked you about your marketing strategy, you kind of touched about like what you're sort of learning as you're publishing. Other than your covers, anything else about the publishing process that you've sort of like learned in these first 3 books that you're sort of planning on doing differently in the future?
Yes. I would say one of the biggest mistakes that I had, I used 2 different editors for my first novel.
Hmm.
And I thought, and I used one was a critique, a storyline critique, which was good. I basically rewrote the entire first novel because I was learning about about how to actually write for readers.
How to
And
write? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so but I expected the editors to catch more errors, and I think that you want to find a good editor, but you also want to find a lot of people who are beta readers or
Mm-hmm.
out, uh, ARC readers to help with, because typos happen, and people, especially people who've read something more than once, they miss stuff. And then find a critique group. So other authors writing in your lane who understand the various genres you're working in and what's expected. I mean, so in romance, I've probably read thousands of romance novels across my life. I read, tons. And romance has very specific things that are
Beats.
expected. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
called beats. That's right. That comes from a book called Romancing the Beats. But there are specific expectations that the readers have, and if they don't get it, then they're dissatisfied.
Mm.
And it's helpful to have critique partners who are also authors who read your stuff and criticize or give you feedback, not just around, hey, that was a really cool sentence or a line or story, but also, I think most readers in this genre are expecting this and maybe you haven't fulfilled it. So I find that helpful. I have a phenomenal group of authors that I participate with, and we share full manuscripts and help each other. We critique, and it's been a huge learning experience for me and helpful. And I strongly recommend that to other writers.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm finishing up my second draft now, and when that's done, it's gonna first go to critique partners that I've met through AuthorTube and other communities like this online and become good friends with. And I've read their books. They've published books. I've read their books. They're good writers. It's gonna go to them first. They're gonna give me their thoughts, their edits on it, and then I'm gonna send it to a professional editor. And then it's going to go to a line editor, because that line editor, it's their job to catch those little mistakes. That's what we're looking for, right?
Right. I had one, and I just won't name them.
Well, see, that's
they
that's
didn't
the
do
thing.
the best job.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to bring up, because, excuse me, because I mentioned earlier one of my favorite books is American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I read it constantly, and I have a beautiful premiere edition, reprinting. It's like the 5th reprinting or whatever. It's a hardcover. The cover's beautiful and embossed, and it has the pages are thin, almost sheer, like Bible pages, and they have like that silver finish around the edges. It's a beautiful book. And in that copy of that book, I find typos and errors.
Oh yeah,
and we're talking about Neil Gaiman. We're talking about one of the greatest writers of our generation, with access to some of the greatest editors working right now, and there are errors in the 5th printing premiere edition of his book. So I try to tell people, don't sweat that too much. Don't sweat the little errors. Everyone's going to have them. Yes, get rid of as many of them as possible. But if you miss one, it's okay. You're going to be fine.
I think
Neil
readers,
Gaiman does it.
yeah, readers expect a little bit. But my first novel, I had to publish a 2nd edition, and I still want to go back and publish another 3rd or 4th. But my other friends keep telling me, no, don't do that. Just keep writing.
Well, on one hand, they are correct. Always go forward, always write something new. But that is one of the perks of being an independent author, right? Is the idea that since it's all yours, nobody else's fingers are in it. If you want to reprint it and do a quick new edit on it, you can. And just, catch all those little things and make it a little better each time. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're still writing new books and putting out new books. Excuse me. Sara, this has been so much fun, and I feel like we're reaching a good stopping point. Was there anything you wanted to get to today that we didn't get to? Anything you wanted to cover that we didn't have time for?
I think that I always just love readers. I love people who read. I like people who read passionately. I love people who write. And more than anything, I love to geek out with other people to talk about books. Even if I haven't read those, because I'm not so much into the Lord of the Rings, but my husband is.
There's a different tea for everybody.
Right? But we're both Buffy fans, so we can meet there.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, man. Finding that common ground with other readers, other writers. Yeah. That's what it's all about, man. That's why I want to put out a coffee. It's going to be writer fuel. It's going to bring us together with a nice cup of Joe. All right, whatever. Nobody wants my coffee. That's fine. I'll make my peace with it. Sara,
I like your podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that you like it. But you can't drink a podcast. That's the problem. I want to drink a hot cup of podcast. All right. Sara, thank you so much once again. This has been great. You are welcome back anytime. If you have a new book coming out or anything like that you want us to hype out, please reach out to me. I am going to email you some chapters. I'm very excited about it. And if you ever need anything, please reach out to me. You're more than welcome. Thank you so much for being on my channel.
Such a pleasure. Thank
I'm
you
glad.
so much.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. To everyone at home, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. You know it's the right thing to do. Just do it. Stop making me ask you. Just hit the button. Thank you guys so much. Right on, writers. We out.